Many people believe that wealth only begins when money shows up, but the truth is, wealth is born earlier, in the identity and habits you choose to adopt, even when your bank account doesn't reflect it yet. I discovered this firsthand. Before I had big numbers, I started thinking, acting, and deciding like someone who was already prosperous. And it was this shift in mindset that changed how the world saw me, and more importantly, how I saw myself. Small daily actions began to build a solid foundation: discipline, clarity, respect for my time, attention to detail. None of that required a fortune, but all of it created the ground where money would eventually grow. These habits didn't just give me stability, they gave me confidence. And that's what I want to talk about. 7 practices that made me wealthy long before any bank balance did. If this message already sparked something in you, leave a like and subscribe to the channel, because what I'm about to share might just redefine how you see wealth. But habit 1. Live as if you're already prosperous. Back when I didn't have money, I noticed my mind constantly placed me in a state of lack. I'd say things like, one day when I can afford it, I'll dress better. When I earn more, I'll organize my routine. When there's extra, I'll invest in myself. That mindset kept me in waiting mode, as if life could only begin after money arrived. What changed everything was realizing that prosperity doesn't come to those who only dream. It comes to those who position themselves. I decided to live as if I were already prosperous, even if my bank account wasn't there yet. It wasn't about spending what I didn't have, but about acting with intention. I chose simple, well-kept clothes. I organized my space to reflect clarity and order. I started walking tall and speaking with confidence. It was like I was training my mind to inhabit the reality I wanted, even before it materialized. At first, some people found it strange. They'd say I was acting full of myself, but the truth is I wasn't faking it. I was building it. Every gesture reinforced the identity of someone who already saw herself as wealthy. And little by little, opportunities started to appear. People treated me differently. Doors opened. I didn't have wealth in my wallet yet, but I already had it in my posture. This habit taught me that being comes before having. Identity creates the ground. Money just confirms it. Comment: I act like someone who's already prosperous. If you also believe that wealth starts with mindset, not your bank account. Habit 2. Treat time as invisible capital. Back when I didn't have money, I used to waste hours on distractions. I'd spend too much time scrolling through feeds, accepting invitations that led nowhere, and saying yes to tasks that drained my energy. By the end of the day, I felt exhausted and unproductive. That's when I realized something that changed everything. Time is the first capital we have. If I didn't know how to invest my time, how could I expect to manage money when it came? I decided to change my relationship with the clock. I created focus blocks, set clear rest times, and started saying no without guilt. What seemed small led to massive transformation. When I began investing my time in learning, projects, and self-care, the feeling of scarcity began to fade. I saw real progress, even if it wasn't financial yet. Over time, I realized that people who respect their time send a powerful message: responsibility. People began to trust me more, offer me partnerships, and see me as someone who was committed. That's when I understood. Time is the rehearsal for money. If you waste minutes, you'll waste bigger resources. But if you treat every hour as an investment, money starts to flow naturally. Today, I know that my wealth began long before money showed up. It was born the moment I treated time as my first asset. Comment: my time is my first capital, if you've also decided to use every hour as an investment in your future. Habit 3. Honor every small amount. There was a time when I thought it only made sense to manage my finances once I had a lot of money. While I was earning little, I ignored spreadsheets, tracking, or planning. I spent without thinking, and at the end of the month, that familiar feeling of scarcity would always show up. Until I realized, if I didn't know how to manage a little, how could I be trusted to manage a lot? That realization came from a simple experience. I received a small, unexpected amount of money, and instead of spending it impulsively, I decided to write it down, set some aside, and plan its use. The psychological impact was huge. I felt in control. It was like I had just proven to myself that I was capable of managing resources, no matter the size. From then on, I started treating every coin as a seed. It didn't matter whether the amount was big or small. I gave it a clear purpose. This completely changed my relationship with money. It stopped being something slippery that disappeared without notice, and became an ally. More important than the balance was the awareness. Over time, this habit shaped my identity. I already saw myself as someone financially responsible, even when I didn't have large sums. And it was this mindset that began to attract opportunities, trust, and later, a lot more money. Today, I understand that wealth doesn't start when you have a lot. It starts when you learn to honor the little you have. Comment: I honor what I have to multiply more if you've also decided to treat every amount as a seed of prosperity. Habit 4. Walk with clarity, not with haste. For a long time, I confused movement with progress. I thought that being constantly busy meant I was growing. I rushed from one task to the next, packed my schedule, and took pride in the hustle. But deep down, it was like running on a treadmill. I was burning energy without moving forward. That perception started to shift when I met truly prosperous people. They weren't always rushing. They walked with clarity. I decided to try that habit. Instead of waking up and jumping straight into dozens of tasks, I started planning my days calmly. 3 priorities at a time, not 20. Strategic breaks to breathe and reflect. At first, it felt like I was doing less. But little by little, I noticed the difference. What I did had weight, impact, and continuity. That clarity changed not just my results, but also how people saw me. They began to perceive me as someone reliable because I radiated focus instead of anxiety. I discovered that money and opportunities love predictability. They avoid chaos but are drawn to those who show direction. Today, I understand that haste is the language of scarcity, while clarity is the language of abundance. I don't need to prove anything by rushing. I need to walk steadily, knowing exactly where I'm going. Comment: my clarity is worth more than my haste. If you've also realized that prosperity is built with direction, not with hustle. Habit 5. Invest in myself before investing in anything else. At the beginning of my journey, I had a habit of waiting to have leftover money before spending on learning or self-care. I'd always say, when there's extra, I'll take a course, buy a book, or take care of my health. But the money was never left over, because the scarcity mindset always consumed everything first. Until I realized something fundamental. Those who become wealthy understand that the first and most important investment is in themselves. It was hard to shift that mindset. I remember the first time I spent money on an online course while still counting coins for transportation. I felt like I was risking it all, but that decision gave me something no material good ever could: clarity, tools, and confidence. Little by little, I realized that every dollar I invested in knowledge, health, and personal development came back multiplied, in opportunities, productivity, and even in how others perceived me. This habit taught me that you can't wait for abundance to get prepared. You attract abundance because you prepare. And when you invest in yourself, you send a message to the world that you believe in your own value. That quiet confidence is a magnet for prosperity. Today, I understand that before I had money to invest in businesses, I had to invest in the person who would run them. Comment: I am my greatest investment. If you've also decided to put your energy and resources into yourself before anything else. Habit 6. Surrounding myself with people already living what I was aiming for. There was a phase when I was the biggest dreamer in my circle. I'd talk about big goals, financial independence plans, and mindset shifts, but was often met with skeptical looks or sarcastic comments. That discouraged me. I started to realize that, no matter how disciplined I was, my environment was pulling me down. That's when I understood. Wealth is also built through proximity. I decided to seek new references. At first, I didn't have direct access to wealthy or successful people. So I started with books, talks, videos, and podcasts. I began studying the stories of those who had already achieved what I dreamed of. I absorbed how they thought, how they acted, even how they spoke. Little by little, my internal pattern began to shift. I no longer felt weird for thinking big. I felt aligned. Later on, when I had the chance to get closer to prosperous people, I realized that just being in that environment was already changing my behavior. I observed more than I spoke, learning quietly. And that's how I understood that even before I had money, I could already feel wealthy by simply changing who influenced my mindset. Today, I know that those who stay surrounded by voices of scarcity rarely break through, but those who choose to be around references of abundance inevitably start to vibrate at the same frequency. Comment: I choose to surround myself with prosperity. If you've also realized that your environment shapes your identity long before the money arrives. Habit 7. Acting generously, even when I had little. When I didn't have financial stability, I used to believe I could only be generous when I had extra. I clung to every cent out of fear of lack, and that mindset always made me feel tight and restricted. But one day, after refusing to offer simple help to someone, I realized I was reinforcing the identity of someone who never had enough. And if that's how you see yourself, it's hard to attract abundance. I decided to change. I started with small gestures, offering my time to help someone, sharing knowledge I had learned, buying a friend a coffee. None of these actions made me poorer, but they connected me to a powerful feeling. I had something to give. It was freeing. What's most interesting is that this quiet shift started to change my energy. I no longer felt like a victim of lack. I felt like a source of value. That change attracted new connections, opened doors, and brought income opportunities. I discovered that generosity isn't about how much you give. It's about the identity you reinforce when you give. Today, I know that this habit made me rich before the money ever did, because it taught me to live in abundance even when it wasn't yet visible. And when you live like someone who has enough to give, you inevitably begin to receive more. Comment: I choose generosity that attracts abundance, if you've also realized that giving is part of becoming truly wealthy. What I discovered on this journey is that wealth doesn't start in your bank statement. It starts in how you see yourself and in the set of habits you cultivate every day, even when no one is watching. That's how it was for me. Before I had money, I was already living like someone prosperous. I learned to value time as capital, to honor every small amount, to trade hurry for clarity, to invest in myself before anything else, to surround myself with references of abundance, and to practice generosity even when it felt like I didn't have much. These 7 habits didn't just give me discipline, they gave me identity. And identity is the fertile ground where money grows. Today, looking back, I see that the transformation didn't begin when I had more resources, but when I decided to be rich on the inside first. That choice changed my behavior, my energy, and the way the world began to respond to me. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these habits are you going to start practicing today, even before you have the money? Leave your affirmation in the comments. It might just be the first step toward your new identity. And if this content resonated with you, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Every video here is an invitation for you to build not just material wealth, but a mindset and a life that truly support lasting prosperity. Because being rich isn't about waiting for the future to arrive. It's about deciding who you are now.